Hey everyone! So you may be wondering why there was a big break in contact for the last month or so in video making, and that's because I was off living in the glorious land of Japan. I do plan on making a video about my overall journey and all of that, but for now, I thought it might be fun to make a video on something that was incredibly exciting to me. Well, other than the fact that I was in Japan, and that was getting to explore the real-life locations that Persona 5 was set in. Now it's kind of funny, as I'm going to show you, that a lot of these locations are uncanny in how close they are to being real, but also just how interesting the things they got wrong or changed are. Sadly, I didn't get to go to every location featured in the game, but for those I was actually able to, I will have pictures and small stories to share with each location. Alright, so let's start with Joker's home base and, well, home for the entirety of Persona 5, that being the wonderfully comfy back alley cafe Leblanc. Now it actually took me 3 visits to visit the real-life Sengon-jaya, which in game is Yangon-jaya, to find the real-life Leblanc, or at least where it would be situated, mainly because I refused to shell out a massive chunk of cash for a SIM card to use Google Maps, and mostly stumbled my way around, and that actually kinda paid off in the end. I don't regret this at all, as the hour walk from Shibuya Station to Sengon-jaya is a lovely and pleasant one, even if the heavy traffic overpass is right nearby. Honestly, if you have the time and stamina, I highly recommend you check out the hour-and-a-half walk, since you won't want to miss the incredibly lovely Meguro River or the surrounding neighborhoods. Once you do get to Sengon-jaya via either way, once you exit the metro tunnel, the back alleys are actually on the right and not to the left like I thought it was going to be. The incredibly warm and pleasant neighborhoods on the left are totally worth visiting, especially for the awesome and friendly Bookland, but if you're just there for the titular Leblanc, then head across the road under the overpass and you'll come across it quite quickly. Side note, I actually forgot that when Joker heads the Sengon-jaya station by leaving via the back alley, it does actually allude to it being on the right side and not the left. Now we can actually get to the back alley, and outside of a few parts being stretched out, it's pretty darn spot on. I do love the fact that the real Good Day A Garden Cafe is called Goodbye Cafe in the game. The laundromat area is spot on, outside of it missing a few laundry machines here and there, right down to the bathhouse. Although, drinks in the vending machine right nearby actually weren't 100 yen flat, sadly, costing around 120 for an orange juice I bought. Next is the back alley itself, leading down into the exits, and this is where it sort of slips from how it is in reality, as although the store-laden underpass of buildings is here, the further rows of houses and such isn't as prominent at the real-life location. Also, for those wondering, coffee and curry is actually really delicious, and I highly recommend you try it out, as Japanese coffee and curry is out of this world. Now, we take the Den and Toshi line to Shibuya Station. Only 2 stops to be exact, and the train in game is going the correct way. Once you get to Shibuya, the shopping area is a heavy mix of reality and fiction, since I didn't notice a single pachinko parlor hammering away in game, but there is a theater, DVD rental store, and quite a few other locations that are taken from all over the area. Shibuya Crossing is almost entirely spot on, with a few exceptions I found odd. For starters, there is no smoking booth at the real-life location. The train car is actually a visitor center I found out, and yes, the lotto booths are also really there. Hachiko's statue sounds proud in-game, albeit with a slight rename, and the entire TV-laden skyline that makes up the crossing is just as amazing in real life as it is in-game. Even more so. Also, yes, the underground mall, and more importantly the flower store, are real locations in the real underground mall. One more little thing before we move on to Akihabara is the overpass. It's nearly identical to how it is in-game, although I now know the reason why Joker and gang don't go up the rest of the way. It's because not only does it lead to a mall, but it also leads to an eerily spoiler-heavy painting that looks incredibly cool regardless if you get the context. Now, here is a little something I thought was odd. The fact that it cost Joker 240 yen to get to Akihabara from Shibuya, even though the actual price was 200 flat. I also love that it's the JL line in-game and not the JR line. Also, a small, odd pet peeve to me was the fact that the Ginza line was GN instead of just a G surrounded by orange. Another detail I loved that they put in was the fact that Joker had an IC card. It's something small, but seeing 95% of the people around me have one there in real life really sold it in game. Now, it actually took me a second to realize which part of Akiba was featured in game. Then I realized that the overpriced retro game store was a parody of Super Potato, and I immediately know where it was located. This was one of those areas that was close enough to its real life counterpart, but it still wasn't 100% accurate, especially with where the Club Sega was located, since the Sega arcade street in that location was more towards the front street, although the maid cafe was exactly where it was supposed to be. Now, the hotel I was staying was actually right across the street from the Akihabara building, and by extension, only a block away from the area in Persona 5. Also, small note, not enough maids. Like, the 3 or so featured here is completely fictitious. There would have been at least 20 or so maids offering you a flyer and trying to get you to go with them. Sadly, with Shinjuku, I didn't really do any of the nightlife stuff. The main things I did there were visit some of the parks and the Tokyo Metro Government Building. Most of my time was spent at Harajuku to see the area shown in the opening of Yakuza, and I also saw Godzilla. Most of my other time in that area was spent at Nakano Broadway, which is coming in Persona 5R, which I have a really funny story to share later, and at Akihabara. At this point, a lot of the locations in game were sadly only viewable if you went to it with one of your friends in game, so I'll just name off a few of the locations I went to, or at least was close by. Seaside Park is actually the Ferris wheel on Odaiba, and while I didn't visit the Ferris wheel itself, I did see it, and I also visited the Gundam statue and the Super Mall there. I didn't do a whole lot in Ginza, but I did look around before catching my train back home. Tokyo Dome at Suoi Obashi was something else, and the conveyor belt sushi there was incredibly tasty. And that's about it. Naturally, I didn't go to every location, and like the gang says, going to Miura Beach was really expensive, so I sadly didn't go the Friday night I was planning on going there. I don't exactly know how to end this video, as this was more just a showcase of the real life locations versus the locations in game and some fun stories I had to share, more so than a detailed video about my experience. That'll be coming in the future though, so I hope everyone gets excited and looks forward to that. Anyway, more videos are for sure on their way, so keep your eyes out for them. Anyway, this is Theo Williamson signing off until the next video. See you guys!